Hold the mic up right there,
Okay.
like, because the closer, the warmer, and hold up a little higher, like on the handle, just because it tends to. Also, I got to replace all my equipment.
Let me.
I remember RAM. Thank you for, and even in the general sense, I like to thank people for sitting with me, and definitely somebody who I've wanted to talk to for a long time. Ooh, careful! It's definitely somebody. There goes Stanley. I didn't do it. I promise.
I wanted to talk to him, but I can't now because he's died.
Yeah, fan of your work and your mission. It seems like you and Firelight Media, you founded this, right?
Yes, me and my wife.
You both. What's your wife? Who's your wife?
My wife is Marcia Smith.
Marcia Smith. And she's a filmmaker as well?
Yeah, she actually is a film writer and wrote a bunch of the films that we do and kind of now runs the whole thing that we do and kind of keeps everything working.
Would you say that you have a mission, or with Firelight Media you have a mission to tell a more far-reaching or maybe a larger story than each specific film?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's can be summed up in world domination. I mean, that's actually our mission.
Fair.
But besides that, I think that we're trying to tell a different set of stories than is out there sometimes in the mainstream. And try to get different people involved in filmmaking. Mm-hmm. There's people of color, and try to get people involved in the industry in other ways. But I don't look at it like I have a mission. I think that each film is separate. If you add them all up, it might look like a mission, but it would probably be an accident.
Don't get me wrong, like not agenda, like you're trying to push your agenda over on people, but just like an artistic idea,
Yeah, I mean,
which has some political side to it, and it has a social side to it, it has historical side to it.
Yeah, I think that for me, everything I do comes out of the fact that I grew up in the 50s, believe it or not, and 60s, and at that point, you didn't see anybody African American on TV at all, and very rarely in the movies, and it's hard to for people who are younger to imagine that you saw African Americans, Latinos, Asians. You never saw them on TV or in films. I mean, never, not in the commercials, not in the situation comedies, not in the westerns, nothing. So I came out of that, and all of a sudden in the 70s there were these blaxploitation films being made. It was like, well, wait a minute, we can get into it. But at that point, the stories that were being told weren't the stories of the people that I knew. It was stories of pimps and prostitutes and hustlers and people shooting each other, and now those weren't the people that I knew. So I wanted to tell stories of the people that I knew.
Mm-hmm. And so, what was the beginning of that? Then, what was the first project that got your career going?
The first film that I made, the first independent film I made, was a film called $2 in a Dream about Madam C.J. and Lelia Walker. And Madam C.J. Walker had a cosmetic company that started in 1910, and it was the first really large cosmetic company that was geared towards African American women.
Yeah, one of these incredible stories that certainly nobody paler complexion.
Well, at that point, I made the film, which we finished in maybe 1989 or something like that. Not very many African Americans knew about the story, and so it was a story that wasn't as widely known. It's kind of known now, but there have been a couple of books that were written since, but it wasn't known back then, and also there were a lot of other things that she did. So the people who worked for the company, who ran the company, were all women. These were all black women, and it was a way to give black women a chance to make some money with some dignity. You didn't have to go clean houses or something like that. So it was a bit different from the opportunities that were out there.
Normally, I would go into great detail, but we're gonna jump over into to respect your time. Maybe we'll do a part 2 some other time.
That'd be great. Anytime.
Thank you. So it seems as though the Black Panthers has been in the fringes of a lot of other documentaries and stories over the last decade plus or whatever, both in the narrative as well as the documentary worlds. So now this is probably the first time there's been something that's been both I guess focusing completely on that as the entire storyline of them, as well as and something that's going to be seen by a lot of people, something that's going to be distributed more broadly.
I hope so. That's what we're looking for.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that when we started the film, we talked to people and they go, "Well, why do you want to do the Black Panthers? Hasn't there been so much done on them?" And I was like,
That's good. I don't have to ask myself.
And I was like, "Well, what film was that?" And I'd say, "Well, which film are you talking about?" And then people would start to like, "Well, wait a minute," So the Panthers have been part of a lot of films, or that they've been the background to other films,
a chapter in the film.
But there hasn't been, in any film that was kind of the rise and fall of the Black Panther Party, which was kind of what we're trying to do in this film.
Part of the story, which I think maybe now is the time to tell it, because maybe now there isn't quite the critical look at trying to, it isn't quite a threat, maybe. I could be naive, but I don't think it's as much of a threat. In other words, I think that there's been a lot of energy put into trying to sabotage and to show, well, there were a lot of fractions and people, it was about, different leaders turning against each other, and there wasn't solidarity, there wasn't a unity there. Well, we see that actually there was, but there was also very, larger than life figures that did have complicated lives and relationships, but that there was a passion and there was a center to it. That's also kind of a new thing.
Yeah, I mean, I think what we wanted to try to do was tell the story warts and all, and try to, how do you tell this story? Well, there were problems from within the party, with problems with the personalities in the party, and maybe that's just something that happens, all the time, when you have these larger than life personalities, how many rock groups are, last forever,
right.
It's really hard. But there were these kind of rock star personalities in the Panthers. So I think that was essential, but also we wanted to show that there were also these tremendous pressures from without, so the FBI and J. Edgar Hoover, the local police departments were putting this incredible pressure, on the Panthers, and some of it was very covert. Nobody knew that COINTELPRO existed. And the other thing is that it's important to understand that the Panthers were really young. So you have these kids.
It's incredible.
You have these young people who are under this extreme pressure, and they're in these life and death situations. They're infiltrated with crazy informers and agents provocateurs who are saying do this, do that, and also you have this leadership that starts fighting among themselves. It was just an incredibly volatile situation.
Mm-hmm. What was that process like, rounding up the surviving members?
I think one of the things that served us was that it took so long to make the film. It took us 7 years to kind of raise the money and make the film. Yeah. And so, the people who, we approached in the first year and they were like, I don't think so. We approached them in the second year. They're like, well, maybe the third year. They're like, you guys still around?
Still around? I guess
the fourth year, I guess these guys are really serious, they're still here.
Or they felt bad for you. Like, okay, obviously they need a leg up here.
Yeah, let's help these guys out. But, and I think the other thing that happens is, people talk to each other and say, hey, these guys, they're okay. They don't seem to be trying to exploit us as other people have. And then, social media has helped because people can kind of, see who you are. And they can go.
Doing due diligence is a lot easier.
Yeah, you just it's like,
a couple of taps.
Press a button and it's like, oh, okay, this is what this person has done. This is, So.
Yeah. All right, so a lot of those, the former Black Panthers they're still very close in touch. Is that your sense that they're...
It ranges, it ranges from there's a Panther alumni organization that's trying to pull more people together. There's a certain faction of Panthers who do not communicate with anybody, or one or two people. Mm-hmm. They don't want to talk about it. They've kind of disappeared. There's that faction. There's some who are kind of very out there, who are collecting any kind of Panther memorabilia and really
archivists,
self-appointed made it a center of their lives even today. So it really runs the gamut of where they are.
It has to be very bittersweet because you are part of a chapter in contemporary history of the country, and at the same time, it was such a family, a rock band, a family, which when it's over has got to feel extremely like you're unanchored. I got that sense from a couple of the guys talked about they felt adrift afterwards.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the most amazing things for us in the film and in the research is we found these exit letters that
Right.
Panthers wrote.
Yeah, that was
kind of
quite
dear Huey that we use at the end, and
Yeah.
they're just amazing,
Heart-wrenching.
Yeah, dear Huey, I love the Panthers, but I need to spend more time with my family. I want to spend more time with my kids. I can't stand being poor anymore.
I can't live impoverished like that. It's a commitment that you can wear at you over. You can do it for so long, and it's another reason why it was run by young folks, because they hadn't entered into families quite yet. Possibly, also, I mean, it was kind of a practical thing. And how do they feel like it came out? The ones that participated or passed. I'm sure you've done some private screenings.
Well, I think one of the how did the film come out, or how did
I know how the film came out. It came out, by the way, pretty damn good. We're just going to put that out there. By the way, as we're talking on a Monday evening, it's coming out. It's going to be playing theatrically at the Film Forum in New York City on Wednesday, the 2nd of September, and then up at the Magic Johnson, AMC Magic Johnson in Harlem. So
it's that Film Forum for 2 weeks.
2 weeks. That's great.
And then 9/11, which is you can't forget. It's 9/11.
Yeah.
It goes to Magic Johnson in Harlem, which is great because that's kind of my neighborhood theater.
Yeah.
We walk over there. Me and my son walked over there 2 weeks ago to see a movie.
Which one?
What's that? What's that woman's name? Amy Schumer, is that?
Oh, yeah, the comedy.
Trainwreck.
Okay.
We bought some popcorn and had a good
it's
time.
a popcorn movie.
We bought some popcorn. It was great. It was a very hot 90-something degree day. We bought some popcorn, sat in the air conditioning, and it was great.
So my question was, before I switched over to help promote the screenings, was just about the reaction to the folks that did participate and support the film, the former Black Panthers, the alumni. What was their response to the finished film?
Oh, the response has been incredible.
They were happy with it, and
how
they were portrayed, and how the organization was portrayed. So
probably, one thing the first thing we did was we showed the film to kind of the people who were in the film, here and in L.A. and in the Bay Area, and wanted them to see the film first. Like, this is what it is. Here it is. We actually sat in this very room and had like 8 Panthers here who saw the film here, and and then we were at festival. We've been at film festivals, so. Maybe I would say 100 Panthers have seen the film, and we've gotten 2 who don't like it, but the rest have been good. So
you could probably say that's negligible.
Those are good odds, So 98 out of 100. Those are good odds.
How many are there
Panthers
that we know about?
I am not sure. I would say that we're talking in 400, 500, 600. Probably who are around.
Yeah, because they were so so young. They're probably just around 60 or early
70s,
60s.
late middle 60s, 70s.
Right,
in terms of film interview, film interviews, they're vibrant. Those are people who can who remember this time. I remember a time that was central in their lives, and a lot of them. Nobody asked them their story. I mean, you would never know what they were doing almost 50 years ago. And so, when I ask them, they just go back there, and it's just amazing to see.
Is it your sense then that from talking to them and maybe getting to know a certain number of them, do you get a sense that they felt mission was kind of like they accomplished something that they did? I mean, their mission was at the time was to overthrow the government as it existed, which it needed to do good. They were not anti-white; they were just anti-hate and anti-bigotry. Do they feel, in retrospect, that they made a big difference?
I think they feel that they made a big difference. I think that their difference in a large way was cultural. We're living in and that if you look at the kind of that movement, so many of the movements that were part of that 60s, late 60s, 70s. It's the changes are cultural. We live in a different cultural time. The Panthers had a 10-point program that included a call for the end of police violence. Better housing for Black people. A complete end to unemployment for Black people, those kind of things, better schools. Those problems are still just where they were 50 years ago. Do we live in a different time culturally? So I think, I was really surprised at pretty much how clear-eyed most of the Panthers that we talked to see it, that they'll talk about, well, we started the breakfast program that's now been picked up by the government, and now everybody understands that you need to have a breakfast program for kids, and believe it or not, the government was not doing that before the Panthers did it. But they would say, no, we didn't. We lost. We fought a battle and we fought a good fight, but no, we lost.
The Black Panthers is the name of the documentary.
Vanguard of the Revolution.
Vanguard of the Revolution, directed by Stanley Nelson, and good luck with it.
We'll be showing is if you go to theblackpanthers.com, and that's simple, theblackpanthers.com, and it has, the schedule not only in New York, but the schedule all around the country. It's going to 20 cities around the country, and almost every place we go, we're having guests almost every evening. And so in New York we're having Jamal Joseph, who went to jail with the Panther 21. We're having lawyers for the Panthers. We're having a great photographer, Steve Shames, who took the incredible pictures that we use in the film. Other Panthers, we're doing the same thing in Chicago, L.A., wherever we go, we're having a guest. And also, believe it or not, I'm going to all 20 cities.
I don't believe that.
It's true. I'm going
so
to all 20 cities to at least be at one screening in the opening weekend.
That's terrific. So check it out. Again, the blackpanthers.com and check screenings, the link for screenings, I assume. And you can find out if it, in fact, is playing in your city, and then prepare for what sounds like a very interactive.
No, it should be great. And
go when you're there, of course.
Yeah, no, it'll be great to do the Q&A. Yeah. That's the gravy of making films, is to be able to see with an audience. But I should also say one last thing is that, for me, I've been making films for almost 40 years, and this is the first theatrical distribution that I've ever had. This is the first real theatrical distribution.
It has been on mostly television?
Yeah, they've been television. We've done a lot of festivals. We've been had a lot of festivals and done individual screenings. But these are like we're at the Magic Johnson Theater all day, every day. At 2, at 4, at 6. You
can do little drive-bys.
Yeah, I'm gonna believe me.
I believe you. Well, after you get back from your tour, let's do it, because I'm interested also talking about from the business standpoint and being a documentary filmmaker going back that long, your experiences and how you've kept up and all that kind of stuff.
I would love to do it.
Okay. Well, we'll let you. We'll get also your sort of stories from traveling around and all that. But thanks a lot for being late to dinner and squeezing this in.
Yeah, it's my wife's birthday, so it's not just dinner. Okay.
That's bigger. Okay. Thank you.
Thanks so much.